Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeb, and I am a baseball purist. Tonight, I will talk about why I love the game of baseball. I don't have very long, but I will start off saying that I get my love of the game of baseball from my mom and her dad, my grandfather. My grandpa was a semi-pro industrial league um, player in Chicago in the 1930s, and he was a lifelong fan of the Chicago White Sox. My mom's love of baseball came from watching the Philadelphia Phillies with Richie Ashburn and Robert and Roberts back in the 1950s, and she always talks about going to games with her dad and sitting at the York White Roses minor league ballpark and watching games. When I came along, I fell in love with the game early. As a kid, I loved everything about it. The logos, the uniforms, gloves, bats, cleats, stirrups, you name it, I loved it. I learned to read at the age of 3, around between 3 and 4, by reading the box scores in the newspaper every morning. I would call out to the newspaper boy and yell from our front porch and yell at Steve, Steve, where are you? Steve. And this would be like 5:30 in the morning. And I'd wake up my parents and half the neighbors. It was good times. On Sundays, they would learn. They would put. They would post every major leaguer's batting average, home runs, RBIs, earned run averages, wins and losses, saves, strikeouts, everything in the newspaper every Sunday. And I would study that stuff, circling different players, trying to find out where my favorite player was, where my brother's favorite players were. I study the newspaper. I loved stats. I loved everything about the game. I grew up a Detroit Tigers fan. My first favorite player was Lance Parrish, the catcher for the Tigers. And one of my favorite moments of all time is in Game 5 of the 1984 World Series, where he hit a home run. And I remember watching that game, and I just remember going crazy when my favorite player hit a home run in the series. It was amazing. As a player growing up, I loved playing baseball. I just loved it. My favorite thing to do in all of sports is hit a baseball. When things in the world weren't right, when I wasn't going right, when I was having a bad day or I had a bad game, I would go and ask my parents for a couple of bucks to go to the batting cages, and I would hit baseballs for an hour, maybe two, and just try to make things right again. And I love hitting the baseball. It's my favorite thing to do to this very day. Like Ted Williams said, I hit till my blisters bled, but I was wearing batting gloves, so Anyway, I loved hitting everything. I loved hitting and fielding and everything about this game. Well, that's going to be it for me for tonight. I'll talk to you next time. This has been Bauer Brothers Sports. Bye.